In 2015, the US Environmental Protection Agency, or the EPA, issued German car giant Volkswagen with a violation notice under the Clean Air Act. The EPA accused Volkswagen of installing emissions software that was fully compliant during testing, but non-compliant in normal driving mode, allowing the cars to emit up to 40 times the federal limit of exhaust emissions. The financial fallout was massive, causing the company's first quarterly loss in 15 years. In addition to $10 billion set aside for a worldwide recall program, Volkswagen was fined $4.3 billion by the US Department of Justice just to settle criminal and civil suits. That scandal, known as Dieselgate, inflicted enormous damage upon Volkswagen's worldwide reputation. In 2019, during a live demonstration of the Tesla Cybertruck's supposedly shatterproof window technology, the car's head designer was invited to throw a metal ball at the side window of the vehicle. The window cracked, instantly undermining the Cybertruck's tough image and raising questions about the car's perceived durability. The fact that it was also the ugliest car on God's green earth is a whole other story. And then there's perhaps the UK's best known example of a single incident destroying a company's reputation. Back in the 1990s, Ratner's jewellery shops were a familiar sight on high streets up and down the UK. But then the CEO, Gerald Ratner, made a speech addressing the Institute of Directors at the Royal Albert Hall on the 23rd of April, 1991. During his speech, Ratner commented, "We also do cut glass sherry decanters complete with 6 glasses on a silver-plated tray that your butler can serve your drinks on, all for £4.95. People say, how can you sell for such a low price? And I say, because it's total crap." That's the part of the speech that's remembered, but he then compounded it by remarking that one of the sets of earrings available at Ratner's was cheaper than a prawn sandwich from Marks and Spencer's. And I have to say, the sandwich will probably last longer than the earrings. Now, I've seen Gerald Ratner speaking, and in truth, he is a very funny guy. I'm sure this was just a joke that backfired. The public, however, didn't see it that way. His ill-judged comments accelerated a spiral of decline for Britain's biggest jewellery shop, which plunged £122.3 million into the red, resulting in the closure of 330 stores here in Britain and over in the States as well. In both the VW and Ratner's instances, it's easy to see the financial cost of their respective missteps. But what of the unseen cost, the loss of trust, and the incalculable damage to the company's reputation? That's a calculation that is probably being done at the Maryland headquarters of ACECO, the demolition contractor that is currently demolishing the east wing of the White House. Now, obviously, the demolition contractor is not directly to blame. They didn't just send their Volvo excavators to 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue in Washington uninvited. The demolition is to pave the way for the construction of Donald Trump's big, beautiful ballroom. In all likelihood, ACECO was summoned at the behest of one of Trump's yes men minions before being turned loose on part of America's most iconic building. But regardless, it is now the demolition contractor that is suffering the reputational damage. The company's name has been plastered across mainstream and social media in connection with the demolition, while disgruntled Americans have taken to Google to leave the firm 1-star reviews in anger at the demolition of the People's House. You can almost hear the tone shift at the company's head office. One day they're celebrating, "We're demolishing part of the White House." The next day, as their name is dragged through the mud, "We're demolishing part of the White House?" In truth, any reputational damage the firm might suffer will be relatively limited in comparison to VW, Tesla, and Ratners. While their name is currently front-page news for all the wrong reasons, journalists and social media keyboard warriors generally have very little influence over the appointment of demolition contractors. And even clients with allegiances to the Democratic side of the political spectrum will still likely award works based primarily on price, rather than a track record of desecrating historic buildings. One of their fellow US contractors might find it harder to rebuild its reputation. As we reported yesterday, Alba Services has just reached a restitution order with the New York Attorney General's office after the company allegedly denied workers compensation on a regular basis for years. Investigators found that between 2016 and 2024, Alba reported fewer than half of the injuries it was legally required to, artificially keeping claims low and reducing insurance costs, according to the Attorney General's office. In addition, the investigation found that Alba failed to prevent sexual harassment and retaliated against employees who reported misconduct. At least 2 workers described repeated harassment by a foreman who sent inappropriate messages, made unwanted comments on their appearance, and engaged in physical contact. When the women rejected his advances, the foreman retaliated by assigning them to more grueling work. Alba has been ordered to pay restitution of $1.4 million, divided among some 700 current and former employees. The damage to their reputation could cost them a whole lot more.